imagine, if you are we advertised this book in a 5 mile radius around his office. And imagine if you are someone who happens to have plantar fasciitis, or you are someone who lives with someone who has plantar fasciitis, and you see this book come across, and all you have to do is click that download button. Facebook makes it so easy for you now that you just click to download. It automatically takes your name and your email address, pre-populates the form, and you just say you're sending this information to the plantar fasciitis solution. Yes, and then they get to download the book. Now, when you look at this, we're able to generate these leads for under $5 for somebody who's ideal prospect for them, and and then we feed them into. I'll share another screen here with you. We set it all up so that we feed it into a GoGo Clients account where it will send an autoresponder. Okay, so we've been talking about let me get you guys back here. There we go. There we go. Yeah, we've been talking for months now about books and about the model of using a book as a way to grow your business, as a lead generator, as a before unit strategy. And that's the kind of books that we kind of specialize in, is doing books that are meant to start a conversation with people. We're not looking, I'm not interested in writing a book that's going to be on a bestseller list or on anything. What I'm looking is for a book that is going to sell more stuff for you. That's really what we're looking for. We're not looking for that outward kind of recognition. We're looking for it as a real practical, viable tool to grow your business. And so we've shared in the past, I'll give you the highlights because I know we have new people coming in here, that the idea is to use a book as a way to identify your ideal prospects, the people who would have the highest chance of collaborating with you to get a result that you can provide in collaboration with them, something that they want. And so the things that matter if you're using a book for this kind of purpose are that the three most important things: that you've got to have a book. That's the table stakes to get in. If you're going to offer a book, you have to have a book. You have to have a title that as soon as your audience reads it, they immediately connect with it. I loved when we were talking about emotion in the last 10-minute talk. That emotion is what's connecting. I'm going to talk about that as compelling. Somebody sees something and says, "That's for me. I want that." And then you've got to have a way for them to get it. So you've got to have a way for them to click here, or to go to your webpage, or go to joesfreebook.com to get your book. You've got to have a way to tell people about it and where to get it. Now, what doesn't matter in that model is it doesn't matter how many pages the book is. It doesn't matter. There's no difference in the job of work of the book, which is to connect you with someone who resonates with the title of your book and says, "I want that book. I want that benefit." It does not matter whether that book is 250 pages or 50 pages in order to do that job, because they're not going to find out that it's 250 pages until afterward. They're making the decision on the title of the book and the fact that you've got a book for them. Okay. Now, what also does not matter is how long it took you to write the book. It doesn't matter that you were so disciplined in getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning for a year and putting in your time to really slave through getting the book done, or that you holed up in a mountain cabin to get the book done. That none of that matters to that job of work. It's just, and the thing that also doesn't matter is how cleverly you phrased the second sentence of paragraph 3 in chapter 4. How you slaved over every word. Should I use that Oxford comma or should I do this? It doesn't matter. And where my whole world changed about all of this is when I found there was a New York Times article about the state of readership, and they had all the Kindle and Kobo data that showed that of all the books that people buy, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but 58% of the books that are bought like that are never opened. Now, it sounds crazy that more than half the people that buy a book never even start reading it until I ask, if you just put your hand up on the screen here, have you ever bought a book and never opened it? Right. Every single one of us does it because we're not the ones, the person buying the book is present Dean. The person asking for the book is Dean with a vision for the future, saying that's going to be valuable for future Dean. We always buy books for future Dean so that we give the illusion that we've actually done something in the present. But we've just committed future Dean to someday in the future, he'll have a few hours to curl up by the fire with his cocoa and read this book. But so when you lean into this now, when you lean into the psychology of what's actually happening, it's valuable that we know that they want the book. That's all I'm trying to do with these things, is to trigger that desire for the book and give them a way to let me know that they want the book. So if you look at it, we begin with the end in mind. Let's say that you teach photography, that you've got boot camps, you've got full immersion, you've got the world's most expensive and valuable photography training. That if you were to have a book called Read This If You Want to Take Great Photographs of Places, every single person that wanted this book would be an ideal candidate for your service, for you to help you to collaborate, for you to collaborate with them to help them get more, become better photographers. So your job is to think, what would be the title of the book that my ideal client would definitely want? What would be definitely in their book collection? Something that if they saw it, they would say, that's the book for me. Now, we don't have to solve the whole problem in the book. We don't have to solve all of their problems in the book. We can have one specific micro thing that you can offer for somebody to get them to just raise their hand and say, oh, I'd like a copy of that book. And what I want to do is kind of pick up from that point on, because we've been talking about we've been talking about this idea of you don't need a big book. You can have a small book. You can do that job of work with the minimum effective dose of having what is a real book, So I look at it, I model these. We've talked about the 90-minute book. It's a paperback book. It's a real, perfect bound book. It's not many pages at all. I think it's like 49 pages. So, it's huge. But it's a example of exactly what I'm talking about. The purpose of this book, if we think about it, that I'm not just the hair club president, I'm also a member, that this book is the catalyst of and driver of $1 million business. This book starts the conversation with people who want to write a book. And we have a team of people standing by to help them do that. So instead of insisting that if I had this book, it can't take longer to read the book than it would take to write the book, right? If I had this big 250-page book on the 90-minute book, it would kind of defeat the purpose. I would venture to say, and I know there's probably people here who have done 90-minute books with us, but I would guess, if I had to, that I'm going to go conservative, and I'm going to say 85% of the people who have done a 90-minute book with us have never opened the 90-minute book, even though it started with them asking for it. They see it, they feel it, they know what we're talking about. Yes, let's get going. That's how it really starts, So I use that as encouragement because I'm going to show you the model of how to do this, how to think about using it. When you have a book, what you've got now is a tool that you can use to engage in a conversation with your ideal prospects. And I want you to think about the way that is a really predictable way to grow this is to do Facebook ads or to do Google ads or Instagram ads or anywhere, postcards, anything that you can do to get in front of your audience, in addition to all the free things that you can do, referrals and your existing clients and on your website and whenever you speak somewhere and whenever you're talking to people and whenever your clients are talking to people, all of those things, the predictable growth rocket that you can use for your business is to pay to get that message in front of a group of your ideal prospects. And what I want to encourage you to think about is to reframe the way that you think about this. And I don't want you to think about the advertising as an expense. I want to get you out of that expense-based approach to this. And I want you to think about this as a capital investment.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
That's what we're looking at here. I want you to think about, excuse me, making a capital investment in getting in conversation with as many of your clients as you can. So let's think about it. Let's say that you're getting leads for your book for $3, for $5, let's say. Let's be super conservative for you. What I want you to think about is, instead of thinking about a budget for advertising or spending where you're feeling like, okay, we need to get an ROI on this immediately, which you will, but not thinking that way. I want you to think about it as using this book using your book as a catalyst to get in conversation with 1,000 of your prospects. So let's say you make a capital investment of $5,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it costs to get to 1,000 prospects. and you think about those 1,000 prospects as the asset that you've invested in, right? You didn't spend expense-based advertising feels like you've got a short window to recoup the money. We ran an ad. It's all in the past. We ran an ad, and most people are looking to get an ROI on that in a short window of time. And then we ran some ads, but it didn't work, right? So think about it as a progressive thing that you're making a capital investment in identifying your best prospects. So now you trade $5,000 and you've got 1,000 people who are your ideal prospect because they downloaded your book about taking great photographs of places. Now, how much is that group of people? Even if you take it down to the bundles of 100 people, you spend $500 to generate a bundle, a capital asset of 100 prospects. And let's extract their value over the next 100 weeks. Just like if you have a real business, let's say you're a chiropractor, and you have to buy some scanner or some x-ray machine or some piece of equipment. No capital investment approach in a business expects that they're going to make this capital investment and then make all the money back next month. You look at it, that machine, that x-ray machine is going to continue to take x-rays for you over years. And your ROI on that is going to be like compounding interest. Well, it's the same thing with the asset that you're developing of this list of potential prospects. So I'll show you a couple of examples, because while we've been talking about it, we started talking about this in the fall. And some people have taken action, but I wanted to just encourage you and show you what it could look like in how we're using it with people who have started in the last couple of months and are up and running and getting business from books. So I'll give you a couple of case studies here. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you. Here is a great example of a book here where, okay. Now, this is a podiatrist in Milwaukee that I've been working with for a while now. And we launched this book, The Plantar Fasciitis Solution. Can everybody see that? Is that, hopefully everybody can see, yes. Okay, so imagine, if you are we advertised this book in a 5-mile radius around his office. And imagine if you are someone who happens to have plantar fasciitis, or you are someone who lives with someone who has plantar fasciitis, and you see this book come across, and all you have to do is click that download button. Facebook makes it so easy for you now that you can, you just click to download. It automatically takes your name and your email address, pre-populates the form, and you just say, you're sending this information to the plantar fasciitis solution. Yes. And then they get to download the book. Now, when you look at this, we're able to generate these leads for under $5 for somebody who's ideal prospect for them, and then we feed them into. I'll share another screen here with you. We set it all up so that we feed it into a GoGo Clients account where it will send an autoresponder. Okay, how do I switch to showing a new screen here? One moment, I'm new to this. Okay. I've got to get to, there we go, stop share. And now I've got to share this one. Here we go. Okay, so since we started this right at Christmas time, he's had 252 people opt in for the book. So you see, we sourced them right there, the Planter book, all from Facebook. And when everybody stacks up in here, we set it up so that they automatically get a autoresponder message. So it sends them a copy of the book, and you can click to see whether they have opened. You can't probably see this one on that screen, but they opened the message and clicked on the link. We can track everything that they're doing, and then we every week mail them a message that will encourage them to take the next step. And so imagine if we think about your book as, when somebody asks for it, as a magic portal into your office, and they magically show up on your door, and they're knocking on the door and they say, "Hey, I'm here about the plantar fasciitis book." Do you think that you would be able to steer that conversation into a way that you would be able to help and collaborate with them? That's how we do these emails that we send out to them. And then we send out messages to them that get, educate them and motivate them about all the things that they need to know in order to get the relief that they need. And it's exciting when you start to think about all the people that you're able to help. You think that now he's been able to help, last count, I think, was 6 people who've come in and gotten, full treatments for his plantar fasciitis protocol. And that's, pretty good. I think it's around $1,800 per client. So you think about that, for under $1,000 in ad spend to get all of this, plus the 250 people that are in that pool now, getting those updates every week from him, educating and motivating them. But we use this beginning part as a conversation. We use it so that we can show people just this kind of thing. What would you say if somebody showed up at your office and said, "Hey, I'm here about your book"? So for us, in that example, what we would do is say to people, "Hey, I'm glad you're here then. If I'm here about the plantar fasciitis book." So we ask them a simple question. Just say, "Hey, does your foot hurt more when you first get out of bed, or does it feel worse as the day goes on?" Which, these are things that you can do by email, because all we're looking to do is engage in an email dialogue with someone. And if they say, "It really hurts when I get out of bed in the morning," and then you're asking another question about this, and then offering somebody the opportunity to get relief. You say, "I can definitely help you with that. We've got a treatment. You'll get 80% relief within 10 minutes. I've asked Susan at my front desk, just call this number. If you talk to Susan, tell her that you'd like to come in and you were emailing with me, and we can get you in today or tomorrow. And that little dialogue email that's all happening in an automated way, triggered by somebody asking for a book, and duplicatable at scale. I mean, duplicatable that we could continue to do that and get thousands of people to ask for the book. So I want to make sure, let's just take some temperature check here. I haven't had a chance to kind of look through
Perfect. I can help you with that. I can
Yeah, I
help you
wanna
with that,
make
Dean,
sure
if you'd like.
that we're on the right track and open it up. I want to have
Yeah,
any
because we have kind of
questions.
two lines of questions going on in the chat.
Okay.
Cameron was asking a question about a book that's already done and looking
Yeah.
for a who to
Yeah.
help with that. Not marketing ideas, but a who, and how do you find a who? And several people have reached out and said, maybe so-and-so, maybe so-and-so. So maybe that's one line of questioning you could address. And then Aaron and Jocelyn were also asking about using short emails, kind of in essence talking to get response for
Yes.
promoting a book, kind of asking about the 9-word email.
Yeah.
So Cameron, Alinka, Scott, Lior, those are people that have kind of had questions and comments.
Okay, cool. Let's do this then. So it sounds like Cameron just wants someone to do as a sidebar, wants someone to do marketing stuff for him.
Yeah, only on Amazon though, Dean. I've got the 4 books that are up and running. One's really cruising well because I co-authored with Hal on the Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, but I need someone just on the Amazon platform to do SEO, keywords, and set up ads. So it's an autopilot. I don't want anything outside of Amazon. So I think I'll probably get enough off the chat, but if you have anything, if you want to email me offline, that'd be great.
What I'm excited about, were you here yesterday when Evan was talking about the YouTube?
Yeah, I was, and it's the 3rd time I've seen him, but I had to check outside a coaching call, but I've got my team is going to watch the replay.
Right.
He's got some cool shit.
Well, I didn't realize that you could buy the suggested video feed for someone. I thought you could only buy like pre-roll ads within a thing, but you can do an actual video and pay to position it in suggested videos for people who search certain things or watch a particular video. It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So because we're talking about before and after books, I guess let's start on the front side of, if we're utilizing the book as a lead generator and a lead magnet. There was a question up a little bit earlier. I believe Alinka had asked, how, even though the length of the book doesn't matter, how many pages are in your book, she asked.
Yeah, so this is what's great, is the 90-minute book is 49 pages. And I use that as the perfect example of that. It does. I do one, this is a Social Security benefit guide that's even less. This one is 39 pages, but we've got others that are, the typical one is in the 50 to 60 page range, which feels like a book, but it also feels like you could read it in one sitting. Yeah,
totally. And on Amazon, you could even be in the short reads category that can give you some extra exposure. So it can be a benefit for sure.
Yeah. And there's the kind of thing. The difference, I think, with these is that I don't put any attention on selling things on Amazon or selling things because it's far more valuable for me to know who's asking for it. I'd rather give it away to people. Like, I think it's far less expensive to give someone the book than it is to convince someone to give you money to buy your book. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that's not without some expense. But the opportunity is that you can start the conversation with more people, even if eventually, like you look at it, these guys they've got, if you just do the math on this, and I'm this may be like heresy, but if we look at a business case or whatever for it, sold now 100 and something plus thousand copies of this book, right? And so you look at it, but they don't know who's bought those books, right? In a way that you don't have a way to communicate with them. And this book is going to do amazing things, but most people don't have a Hay House book deal. And most people don't have a Ben Hardy to write their book and a Tucker Max to edit the book and put it all together. We're talking about business books for people who want to use a book to grow their business. And it's sometimes it's sad to see people feel like that's the model that they have to aspire to, when you could literally get a book going and get making money. Like the ones I'm talking about, that plantar fasciitis solution, that wasn't even, since we've been talking about books, that book was conceived, written, published on Facebook, getting people in conversation and solving people's problems. And it's the middle of March right now, right? So it's gone from, a $2,000 investment in making a book and 30 or 40 days to making money with your book, which is what I would hope that people are primarily concerned with,
Yeah. Cameron, before I have you talk, because I think you had just started to speak a moment ago.
Yeah.
Gina just put in the chat links to Dean's first talks about this. One of the things I might suggest, if you hadn't already thought of this, now maybe this is the way I do things, maybe it wouldn't work for you, but since I often forget to save the chat, when there are links in the chat, I will always click on them and open them up so that they're there and they're available and I have them, and then I can copy paste them into another place. I want those on Monday. I want those on my weekend because that's what I can start working on as soon as I leave here. So I wanted to bring note to that or draw attention to that before it runs up the feed. So those are right there. They're about to leave your feed if they haven't already. Go for it, Cameron. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I didn't find out until it was too late, but Amazon pays out the percent commission partially based on the amount of pages in your book. And there's a couple of tiers on that. And 2 of my 5 books were too short, and then the other 3 were long enough that I get a higher percentage commission on 3 of my books, even though they were only like 20 pages longer. So I would have happily figured out 20 more pages. Hell, I just would have invited Dean to guest author a half a chapter for me. I could have hit the page count, but so yeah, like recite the alphabet 10 times and get yourself over the page count if you have to, but it's worth knowing.
Do we have a way to find out what the page count is? That was a question in the room.
Amazon does have the detail. I don't know what it is off the top. I'm looking to see if I can show it, but Amazon does have the number.
Awesome. And we have one more question. John, where did you go? John, you might have to unmute. It was about a postcard.
The question is, Dean, have you had clients successfully use a postcard to drive them to, yes, I want your free book?
Like this one?
Yeah, that's like that one.
This book? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this is an interesting thing. John, you know that I am a postcard lover, right? Yeah, I love postcards maybe more than most people. And so there it is. That's what we do. We just did a big campaign with that Social Security book for, could we target people who are 60 to 67 years old, and we generate, a good response rate on them. But the cost per lead on the book generation was about $50 which is right for the postcard, right?
Right.
But then we ran this ad on Facebook. Let me share my screen here with you. and we target the zip codes, and we do this as the postcard things, and we're generating these leads for $5. And so I look at it, I mean, I've got a nice relationship with my postcard guys here in Sarasota. And, there's some, I look at these as like digital postcards is what I look at the Facebook ads as. That's the way I'm using them, as like digital postcards. Now, there's still nothing. Postcards are the most powerful, directly addressable media. If you've got visible prospects that you can get their address, it's still a bargain that you get a uniformed government employee to deliver it right to them wherever they are. It's a bargain. But if you've got things where you don't know exactly who your audience is, the Facebook ads are a great way to get those people out. Now, the thing that we will do now is we will send postcards, larger postcards, following up with people who ask for the book online. We'll immediately switch to doing all of our follow-up to amplify it with being in somebody's mailbox, because there's nothing like physical mounting evidence that you are going out of your way for someone, Yeah. I'm a big fan of the what's happening with QR codes now, because I look at these as I actually got a great domain name, John, handheldhomepage.com. I haven't got anything on it yet, but that's what I'm looking at your postcards as an opportunity to be, is a handheld homepage that people can just scan with their scan the QR codes on, and you just display all the media that you've got on the stuff. So there you go.
Hey, Dean, it's Alex over here. I'm taking over for Kathy for 30 seconds as she comes back. You've talked about it before, but in lead gen, it's so important because there's a lot of misconception. We don't have to wait for them to read the book in order to follow up with them for lead gen.
If you waited for them to read the book, you wouldn't be speaking to many people. That's
the stats I have, because I love postcards too. The stats I have, I don't know what you have, but if they read the book, our conversion is lower. Which is fascinating. I don't know, maybe I'm a bad writer, but
I have no way of knowing. And I know that it's a delay, that if somebody sees a book called The Plantar Fasciitis Solution, because their foot is killing them right now while they're sitting there drinking their coffee, massaging their foot on one of those balls with the things to try and jumpstart their morning so they can at least stand up for a second, and they're scrolling through their phone and they see a book called The Plantar Fasciitis Solution, that as soon as they ask for it, if we're emailing them right away, and here's your book, and then asking them a question, engaging in a dialogue, it's such a fast track, We always want to think of it like, you think about the email that goes out initially, like welcoming somebody into your office or into your store. That's why I talk about that portal. Imagine that the book offer, that as soon as they say, yes, I want the book, imagine that as a magic portal that brings them right to your front door. They knock on the door.
Well, getting a lead, a paid lead, versus getting a reader are two different things. I think for us, it was just the anticipation of reading the book. That anticipation gets them more excited about learning what the end game is. And so that's what we found. I'd be interested, whoever is involved in working with you with the lead gen process, is just check, did they read the book or not? And it'd be interesting metric to get. Kathy's back.
Thank you, sir. You know, there was I think the research came out in the 90s about a topic related to that. And it was that it was greater than 80% of exercise videos were never opened, but it didn't keep people from buying the second one. And I took that and I ran with it because we would put out small things in my very first company. And there was that, yeah, but they haven't done it yet, or they haven't done it yet. And I went, I guess apparently it doesn't matter. We need to put out a second one. And I took that as far as to say, we were selling, you know, a $2,000 to $3,000 product. And it didn't matter if they had implemented that $2,000 or $3,000 product into their business, they would still come for the second one because they would use that as the incentive. Because now that I'm coming to the second one, I'm going to go do the first one.
Right.
We took that through to 11 certifications at that $2,000 to $3,000 price point, and people stay because this will be the thing that makes me do it.
Well, the great news is that that's one of the things when I discovered that we buy things today for future, Dean. So when you can make that decision, that's who you're really speaking to. It doesn't, you know, it's like what that time that somebody's going to have to curl up with the cocoa and read the book is very few and far between. So in the meantime, let's just talk to now, Dean, and let's get rid of that plantar fasciitis, you know.
I think there's a comment there from Dino. I've only published via Amazon's KDP in the past. Man, it's hard when they scroll. In the past because of one simple one-off printing and drop shipping ability. If you were not publishing via Amazon KDP, what resources do you use for publishing and drop shipping?
That's a great question. That's a dignified question, and it deserves an answer. But it's an answer that I don't have because I'm not the who that does that on my team. But I will happily get Stuart to let me know.
That actually brings up a really interesting point. And because I did run to the restroom briefly, if there were questions that went through that didn't get answered, throw them back into the chat now so we can see it. In the, let's see, I believe it was the February newsletter that the Genius team put out, there was a quote in there, and this kind of speaks to what Cameron was speaking about. So maybe it's worth addressing again. It was the quote that you said, how do I find a who? Like, how do I find, that's probably one of the most prominent questions as you're growing people's businesses, you know, how do I find a who? Do you have input on how do you find a who?
Yeah, I think that the first step in finding a who is that you need to get really good at articulating what and I'm going to use Cameron's term, vivid vision for the outcome of this is. I think that you exercise this, the better you get at articulating what you want, the easier it is to let people know who you're looking for. I remember Cameron telling the story of how, let me know if I get this wrong, Cameron, but somebody was looking for a particular type of person, and somebody wrote the vivid vision for it, and everybody said, "Oh, that's this person that you're looking for." And I think that how I found, and it's a funny story actually, how I found one of I call her a unicorn, Lacey, she can write and design and do technical stuff. And I kept saying to Stuart, listen, I need somebody like Lacey, is who I was saying this, because she was the marketing manager of one of our clients when I first met her. And I was just so impressed with how she was able to do all this stuff. So in my mind, she was the prototype for the thing. So years later, she had left there, done a political job, and had a baby, and now is back into the workforce. But I posted up on my Facebook, I said, unicorn wanted, and I described what I was looking for. And literally, one of the first people to reply was Lacey with the hand up emoji. And I didn't even cross my mind that she would be available to do it. And it was just that. So I think you let you let it be known what you're looking for, and people will rally all around it.
I think on that point, somebody's important. Tell
That's
them
me.
I'll call back. So one of the things that I think is most important about that, have you ever been brushing your teeth, regular toothbrush, electric toothbrush, and someone in your life walks up and asks you a question in that moment? And in that moment, you're like, and it was perfectly crystal clear, those words that you just spoke. And you're like, of course, I just told you it's over there, right? Because that's what you hear in your head when you speak. But what they're hearing is, to me, sometimes what we do and how we do it, it's crystal clear. It's as clear as toothpaste and toothbrush in your mouth while brushing. So I really, really recommend that if you haven't gone through the entire Vivid Vision process and you are trying to shortcut this, first of all, go back and do the Vivid Vision. But along the way, share your message with people that don't know what you do, like where it's safe in this group, and have them go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Because the people in this group, while a little blunt sometimes, they are nice enough to go, wait, do you do this for who? When do you do this? So that's just
it's like that is like the magic skill that fits for Who Not How. That's exactly how you do it. And the thing about this Who Not How sort of world that we're living in now, where it's easy in Cloudlandia to collaborate with people everywhere, right? That what I'm finding is it's kind of startling in a little way to imagine that your vision doesn't have to be limited by what your capabilities or your internal team capabilities are. You need to stretch your vision to fit what's available in the world, what the world can do. That you have access to every capability that you can imagine. Yeah.
I think that I didn't realize when we first started putting Who Not How idea out into the world, into this network, and we first started hearing you use that terminology a lot, the biggest pitfall that I kept running into is I kept asking for a what. And I didn't realize I was asking for a what and not a who. I was still trying to answer it or do it myself.
Yeah.
I am getting it's about time for us to wrap up. So if there are any more emergency questions or anything if there is anything okay, Dan, give us your emergency question.
I've had an idea about the Who Not How thing, and that is I recently hired my COO, and she came about because I was talking to Stefan about the kind of person I needed, but he had just recently put a job position out for an executive assistant, and he had 3 perfect candidates, but he could only hire 2. So he said, this person will be perfect for you. Look at Colby, and we had a discussion about it. But how many times a year in this group do we have perfect candidates for other people? They're just not quite perfect for you, that we could, I don't know, pool in a database or something like that.
Yeah.
And
that's fantastic. We were talking about that actually in Strategic Coach too, of having, but imagine if we've been talking about this, the VCR formula, vision, capabilities, and reach. And we all have assets in each of those categories. We've all got things that we know that other people don't know, visions or recipes or formulas. We've all got capabilities that we have internally or on our teams. And we've all got reach to some degree with our own internal clients, our prospect lists, our publications or media that we may own, or opportunities to do that. And if we all had sort of almost like trading cards where you could see what the vision, capability, and reach assets are of everyone in here, that would really be a fun thing.
And she's perfect as well. She was even messaging me saying, this isn't a joke. This is my perfect job. The way that I'm operating it and everything is perfect for her. And she'd be, it's going really well. But I don't know where I'd be today. There's been a few months without her, because she's been doing really well at hiring people, because I'm not very good at hiring people. We've been hiring developers and all kinds of things. It's just it's been a really good thing, but
we're definitely in
could have gone to waste. Yeah.
We're definitely in a world where everybody, this is the greatest thing about Cloudlandia, is everybody can have I can't believe I get to do this as my job. That's really it, I can't believe all I have to do is this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without any of the other stuff, nobody needs to be multi anything. They can just do the thing they love, Yeah, we've got guys on our team who all they do is book covers. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this. I mean, that's all I have to do is book covers. Perfect.
I don't know if you caught that, but the question in the chat was, what is Cloudlandia? So that means we have been around long enough that we have a lot of colloquial speak within the network.
Wow.
Start sharing the love.
So Dan Sullivan and I do a podcast called Welcome to Cloudlandia. And we're talking about this migration that we're all undertaking here over the last 20 years, and we're almost fully there now to the Cloudlandia. It's to the point where this is the real world now. I mean, the real world is in the cloud. We're in Cloudlandia right now. Kathy's in Phoenix. The rest of us are here in Cloudlandia. We've got access to every restaurant available right here in Cloudlandia. You just type in, okay, I'd like this, and you can track it coming right to you. So just as a distinction between the mainland and Cloudlandia, used to be if you were you were a graphic designer, you would have to live in an area where there's a city big enough that they would have a graphic design firm that would have worked for a graphic designer. Now you can live in Slobovia, wherever. I mean, I don't even know if that's a real place. You can live anywhere with access to Cloudlandia and be connected and do just your portion of something. Every capability that you can imagine has been commoditized now. And I mean commoditized in the good sense of the word, in that it's available for sale. It's available for sale.
I think one of the main points, and then we need to wrap up our takeaways, is the recognition that right now, there are so many people that came online and moved their businesses online from a brick and mortar in the last year to an online experience. And I don't mean to be unkind, but they had no idea Cloudlandia existed. And so even if they had a brick and mortar somewhere, let's go outside of San Francisco, and now they're online and all their clients have found them online, they're still thinking about, all right, how do I get these people right here? They're still thinking right outside of San Francisco. They haven't learned to open up their vision to go, wait a second, how many people are on the planet? Yes. I can talk to all of them, right? Wow. And so the need for the book now to put a line in the water that is specifically for the type of fish that you're trying to catch, yes. It's never, you're ahead of it if you can go now.
Right.
So I think that's one of our big takeaways. So that means next action item, as Tarna was saying at the very beginning of this, that they have been purchasing so-and-so's name, like kathysfreebook.com, Jim's free book. I don't know if they got Jim Do, how they manage that, but they've been purchasing each person's name over time, or as you all join the group. So find out. I assume, Tarna, correct me if I'm wrong here at any point, but I assume that if you have not asked them if they have your name, start with that. All right. You filled out the form, so you've kind of identified where you're at in the process. If you don't know what to do next, send an email and ask, who should they ask? You? Anyone? Any preference of who they send an email to? All right. Members at Joe Polish, and they will take care of you. Basically, what do we do next? Because what I remember hearing at the end of last year was the goal is to see how many books we can get written over the course of the year. Is that what I heard in it? Thank you.
Not only written.
Not only written.
Monetization.
Okay, so did you hear that? I know you didn't, so I'm going to repeat it. Not only heard, but to monetization. So they kind of threw down the gauntlet. It's not enough that they want to help us write a book. They actually wanted to help us be monetized.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
All right. Dean, is there any last words you want to say before we thank you and let you go?
Now we've been talking and talking and talking about you doing a book. You've sit here. I'm looking right at the camera right now. I'm looking at your eyes right now. And you know, maybe not you, Kathy, but you know, if you're hearing me say that you need a book, and I've demonstrated and showed you all these different things, and since you've known about it, I just showed you examples of people who in that time have gotten the book done, gotten the ads going, generated leads, generated clients. And here we are, you're still sitting there, right? So let's throw your hat over the fence. Let's get going.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Dean, for taking the time.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. You're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.